Hello everybody, this is Brett Lonsdale from Lightning Tools and welcome to the webinar this afternoon, at least this afternoon here in the UK. And this week we're going to be talking about Social Squared as a discussion board inside of Microsoft SharePoint and also Microsoft Teams as well. So, as I mentioned, welcome to the webinar. Just a quick introduction to myself and also to Lightning Tools. So, Lightning Tools has or is in its almost its 15th year of providing different tools and components for Microsoft SharePoint and also Teams. And these include things like permissions management, content aggregation, data integration and visualization, and also SharePoint list form design. And of course, as we're going to see today, the discussion boards as well. So we're based in the UK. We also have a office in Orlando, Florida, as well. And yeah, I founded the company back in 2007, primarily to be able to provide products that will help people become more efficient and also be more productive when using Microsoft SharePoint. And of course, this has evolved into SharePoint Online using the SharePoint framework and also into Microsoft Teams now as well. So the first thing I want to do is just talk about the agenda. So what we're going to first of all kick off with is just a little bit of a sort of concept of why use discussion boards. So we're going to take a look at just a couple of examples of discussion boards that you may have used out there on the internet. And we're also going to take a look at how those discussion boards may also help you and your organization as well when it comes to providing a platform where users can post questions and gain answers to those questions as well, either in Teams or also in SharePoint. And that won't take too long. We're then going to jump into really a live demonstration of Social Squared. So you'll be able to see how to use Social Squared from an end user's perspective. So if you are inside of Teams or inside of SharePoint, how you can use it to post questions with inside certain forums. And also how to respond to some of those questions as well and use the features such as mark as answered and things like that too. And we're going to wrap up the demonstration with looking at some of the new features that were launched in February this year. So this month, and that was in the build of 2.7. So if you are an existing customer, there is a brand new build available. So you should have hopefully received the updates through the CDN. If not, you can go through and download the package again from lightningtools.com. So we'll be having a look at what those features are and also what's on our roadmap going forwards as well. And we will wrap up with a Q&A session. So if you've got any questions as we go through, feel free to jot those down, and there will be an opportunity where you can ask your question in the chat panel at the end of the webinar too. And I'll sort of keep an eye on that Q&A as we go through the session. So the first thing I want to do is just kind of cover the concept of discussion boards. And I think probably everybody on this webinar this afternoon has at some point at least read something that is inside a discussion board that has been useful to you. And there's just an example here of somebody that's got a BMW that's reporting the fact that their indicators or their turn signals, if you're from the US, that they're not working. And this is something that, of course, you could go through and Google or use Bing and do a little of research before you start to play around with your vehicle and see if you can fix it yourself, or even have an expensive trip to the BMW dealership to see if you can get that problem resolved. So the first thing you're going to do if your turn signals weren't working on the BMW is to perhaps go through and Google it, and you can almost guarantee that you're going to see lots of different results taking you through to different forums. And those forums will be structured in such a way that, you know, it's not just a forum about BMWs in general, because there's a lot of models of BMW available across different years, but you'll also see that the forums are structured in such a way that if you're the person that was asking the question, you would go through and ask that question against the actual model of BMW that you have. So that's where the structure comes in. We wouldn't ask a question about our 3 Series in the 7 Series forum. We're going to make sure that we go into the 3 Series forum and post our question there. And that way we're likely to be more targeted towards other people that are reading our post that also have a BMW 3 Series and may have also experienced that same issue in the past. So as you can see, when I click onto one of those Google results, I was actually taken through to a BMW forum. and this is through a platform called Stack Exchange. And in here you can see the question was asked, and it was also answered as well. And you'll see some of the different features inside of this forum that you're also going to see inside of Social Square today, and that is things like the tagging. So you'll notice that there's other things in here to do with BMWs. They've been tagged with the word BMW. They've also got turn signal as a tag and indicators as a tag as well. So if this particular thread that I landed on wasn't really anything to do with my issue, then it may be that there's actually other posts as well that are to do with the indicators not working. So I can click onto one of those tags and see the other posts and see if any of those are also relevant. And of course, if I don't see anything that is relevant to me and the problem that I'm experiencing, I can go through and post a new question. And the idea is that the community will come together, because there's lots of people inside the community that want to be able to answer my question. And I may get BMW mechanics or even people from dealerships that spend some of their time helping the community and providing the answers to these questions. And as the author of that question, I can be really helpful to other people. So when somebody does reply, if that worked, if I just needed to kick the tire or something like that, and the indicators suddenly start working, then I can say, yeah, this is what I tried, and absolutely, this mechanic, he was correct. This worked for me, and I can mark that as answered. So anybody else experiencing that same problem then gets to know what worked for me, and they could try the same. So that feedback is critical when you're the author of the question, as well as when you're replying to the questions as well. So there's things like voting that you see in here. There's markers answered and bits and pieces like that. And of course, it's not just about cars. I am a car fanatic. Anybody that knows me will will certainly realize that. But this could be literally about any subject. If you don't know how to cook lamb, for example, you could Google it, and somebody somewhere is going to have a suggestion of how to cook that, and the sort of things that you could try to make sure that you get that meat to the right temperature, or whatever it might be. So there's forums on almost every single subject that you'll come across on the internet. So how do we apply that to business? Why are we looking at using discussion boards inside of maybe SharePoint and Teams? And the answer is that we use SharePoint and Teams around different departments or different projects that we may be working on inside our organizations. And when we're doing that, we're going to have questions. And especially at times like now, where there's a pandemic and people are working from home and so on, it's not always easy to ask the person sat next to us for the answer to a question. And we don't really want to trouble other people either by sending an email to them. And even if we did do that, then the only people that are benefiting are the people that I emailed and me, the reply that I get. It's then locked in my inbox. Nobody else is going to actually see what that response is inside the organization in years to come, as they join the organization and perhaps also start working inside that department. And that's really the benefit of this. If you just flick back to this BMW question, this is something that was raised in, I think it was 2016 or something like that. Anyway, even if it was raised in 2016, it's still there, and I can find the answer to that question still, even if I had an older BMW. It's not like a Facebook feed where there's just a continual feed of different posts, and if you start scrolling through that feed, you're only perhaps going to scroll back as far as a day or two. So the idea here is that these discussion boards, the way that they are structured through the different forum groups and the forums, just like the BMW one being structured through the different models and the years of BMW, we can go through and look as a subject matter expert into the forum where we can be of help to other people, perhaps because we've got the same model BMW, or if I'm going to ask the question, I'm going to ask it in the forum that is most relevant to the question that I'm asking. And that way, the community will be able to respond to me. So the sorts of questions that you may use Social Squared for, or a discussion board inside of your business. One of them is a sort of technical example. So, if we've got, in Lightning Tools, we have a group of developers, and if there's, a certain exception error that they are seeing inside their code, and, they've sat there, they've tried to troubleshoot, they're not finding the answer out there on the internet, then it may be that they could ask one of their peers by posting the question inside of Social Squared. And if we were going out to a pool of different developers, hopefully somebody will reply, and then again we could mark that as answered, which is going to go on to be of benefit to other developers in the future that may also experience that same error code. So it's things like that we can use it for technical reasons. We've also got the ability to use it for other types of questions, whether it's to do with human resources, whether it's to do with legal, whether it's to do with sales, whatever it might be, the different departments inside of your business. We get questions from our customers or from our suppliers, and maybe we're not sure how is the best way to go and answer those questions. So we can reach out again to our peers and post that question rather than sending it in an email. We could post it into a discussion board, so it's going to continually serve people again as they join the company, and they can research that same answer. And also inside of education as well. So if you're perhaps in a hybrid educational environment, or it's purely online, there's people that don't want to speak out in Teams meetings, or if you use the chat meeting, sorry, you use the chat panel inside the meeting, you don't want that attention on you. So maybe it's something that you want to be able to discuss with other members offline, outside of that meeting environment where somebody may, potentially embarrass you is your feeling. So there's the ability to sort of post questions about education. Maybe you don't fully understand what's expected of your homework. Maybe you just drifted off in your mind for a moment and you missed something that was said and you're too embarrassed to say. So this is something that perhaps you could go through and post anonymously or something like that inside a discussion board and get a response. So there's several different reasons why you may use a discussion board within inside a business. And I know there's things like the posts tab and Yammer and things like that. And they will share the same sort of features that you're going to see inside of Social Squared. But really the thing that differs is the fact that you do have this structure of the forum groups and the forums that sort of map to the different types of question that you might ask, just like the different BMW models. So if it was, a technical thing, we may have the different applications through Microsoft 365 that we're asking the questions on. So if it's a planner question, we would ask it in the planner forum. If it was a SharePoint question, we'd ask it in the SharePoint forum, and so on. And all of these could be inside the one team called technical support. And that's exactly the demo that you're going to see today, by the way. So that's the sort of thing that we can do. And if you picture yourself as that person that does have that question and you're not getting an answer, maybe you have emailed somebody, but they happen to be off today. There was nobody else to ask, or maybe you asked it on the posts tab and there was lots of chatter on there because there's a large team. Then you're not getting your question answered, and that can lead to you then feeling that nobody's helping you and feeling that frustration. Whereas if you get your question answered, you can move on and you can achieve the results that you're looking for, and that's the sort of sense of community that you're going to be getting through Social Squared. So that's sort of a bit of background as to why you might use Social Squared inside of Teams or inside of SharePoint. It is available it is a SharePoint framework app, which is fully responsive and modern, being designed that way so that it can be used inside of Teams and inside of SharePoint. This automatically makes it available across all your mobile devices as well. So if you are using the Teams app or the SharePoint app on your mobile phone, you can also access Social Squared through there, and that way you get to see things like the notifications and so on coming through on your phone, as well as whilst you're on your desktop or your laptop. So also being a SharePoint framework solution, it's really simple to install. You can just simply drag and drop the SPFX package into the app catalog and click that sync to Teams button. That makes it available through Teams as well. And then you can go through and add it as a Teams tab inside of Teams, or as a personal app inside of Teams, or you can also add it as a web part on a SharePoint page. So with all that said, let's jump in and take a look at it. So we're going to go through and explore Social Squared inside of Teams first of all, and then I'll also jump into SharePoint as well. So I'm just going to Alt tab here into my environment. So you'll notice here I've got a technical support team, and it's got some different channels. So there's of course the general channel. We've also got a planner channel as well in the SharePoint channel. And under the general channel, I've got all of the forum groups showing. So here as a Teams tab, we've got Social Squared added, and you'll be able to see that I've got the SharePoint forum group, the Teams forum group, the Planner forum group, and an Excel forum group as well. So this is exactly what I was saying. If we wanted to maybe be that person that likes to help others, we can go through periodically and maybe click into the area that's our specialization, and as we see people posting questions in here, we can respond to them. Or we could also subscribe as well to that forum, so that we don't have to keep manually coming in and checking. We actually get notified via email when somebody creates a new post inside this particular forum, and that means that we can then jump in, answer the question, and hopefully help somebody out. And of course, if you're going to post that question yourself, then you would go through into the most relevant forum and post it as well. That's what we're going to do in just a moment. So you can do that through Teams. If you are not a fan of the Teams environment, then you can access the same thing inside of SharePoint. So if you've got a teamified SharePoint site, then you can actually still post questions. The exact same question will show up inside of Teams as well for the people that may be reading it through Teams. So this is not two separate products. They're both basically the same web part with the same repository, so you can access it via SharePoint or Teams, depending on which one you prefer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is jump into the SharePoint on-premises forum first of all, and I'm going to go through and post a new topic in here. So we'll click onto Add New Topic. And you'll notice that we've got a subject. So I am going to put that, I've got an SP exception occurring in my code. And in the body, I'm just going to say, where can I find a list of exception codes that will help me? Okay, now I also want to perhaps be able to drop in my code, so maybe somebody can take a look at it for me. And so what I'm going to do here is just bring up a little code snippet. And I could just copy and paste this code, which it looks ugly. So it's just come through as plain text. So I'm just going to Control Z and get rid of that. So on the rich text toolbar at the top here, you can see that we can insert a code snippet. So there's a drop down of different languages. So I'm going to choose the JavaScript language. And notice we get this sort of embedded element here for JavaScript, and I can paste my code in there, and now it's properly structured and so on. It's maintaining the JavaScript formatting so that it becomes a little bit more readable. So I'm posting that question. Now you'll also notice at the bottom here, there's a few tag suggestions based on what I've written. Since this is sort of SharePoint related, I could choose one of those tags. If I'm not really seeing anything there, then I can actually go through and create my own tags as well, and that'll make it easier to find. So I'm just going to put SP exception. So just like the thing with the BMW with the indicators, if somebody reads this and this isn't really their problem, then they can also click onto the tag and see other posts that may also be to do with SP exception. I'm just going to also put JavaScript in there as another tag as well. So that's my post. I've created it, and we'll click on to add. All right, so there it is, right at the very top of the forum. And obviously nobody's read that yet. Nobody's replied or anything like that. So what we're going to do is just go through and drop in a reply. But I'm going to do this as another user. And meanwhile, I'm actually going to just sort of wander off. I've asked my question, so maybe I'm going to a different team and looking at something else. So whilst we do that, I'm going to respond as someone else and just drag that onto the screen here. So here I am. I go into the on-premises forum. There's the SP exception occurring in my code. And for this particular user, which is demo user 5, that post is appearing in bold because they've not read it yet. So as I go into that, I can see the post that was created by Brett, and in here I can now go through and reply to it. So we'll hit reply, and I'll just put "this will help you," and I can just pretend I've written a bunch of text. I could highlight it and do all sorts of things in there. I could also tag it myself if I wanted to. And use one of the suggested tags, and that's it. So I'm just going to go through and Okay, so that has been replied to, and you can see here I've got the Teams notification within inside of Teams, which is alerting me to the fact that somebody has replied to my post. So I could now click through that, or jump into Social Squared, and sure enough, they replied to it. So we can go in and have a look. It's turned bold, so I know somebody's replied to it. There's the response. And if this is something that's going to be really helpful, then I can like it. I can also vote it up if I want to. So I've got the voting up and voting down. I could also mark it as answered as well. And this is all going to be useful information to anybody else that happens to be reading this thread. The other things I can do in here as well include things like ratings. So I can rate my own post if I want to, and I can also mark it as favorites, so I can find it more easily and things like that. So these are some of the features that we've got. Now you'll also notice that demo user 5, the person who responded, has 2 badges, and you get awarded the badges for the replies and the posts that you create, and for doing things like marking as answered, and all of this gives them credibility when I'm trusting the response that they provided to me. So there's that feature as well that you have inside of Social Squared. So we'll jump back, and so that this will refresh periodically, but I'm just going to do a refresh anyway. Okay, so I'm just going to jump back into the on-premises forum, and you can see here that that post has been marked as answered. It does have the rating and so on. So as somebody in the future that may be looking to find the answer to an exception, they could do a search here on SP exception, and there it is. It's brought up this particular topic, so I can go through and read that topic. And if this was exactly the sort of question that I had, I'm seeing the exact same error, then what I could do here is just say, show me the answer. So when there's hundreds of different replies, if I just hit show answer, that's going to show me any post that has been marked as answered, and I'll be able to go through and try out this suggestion. Okay, so that's how we can go through and find posts. So using the search, or you could also use the tag cloud as well. So clicking onto that brings up the tag cloud over on the right hand side. And again, just like the BMW indicators, I could click onto that and see all the posts to do with indicators. Or if I wanted to take a look at some of the questions with regard to the SP exception, there it is inside the tag cloud. So we can click onto that and see any posts that are tagged with that particular tag there. And the tags now have suggested tags. This is one of the new features in this version. So so if I was to go into the on-premises here, and I'm going to post a question about Microsoft Viva. So in here we'll say Microsoft Viva as my my subject, and put, does anyone know what Microsoft Viva is? Okay, and you can see in here that there's some suggested tags coming up, again based on the terms that I used inside my post. So what we can do here is say, yeah, it's kind of related to Teams, but there is actually a Microsoft Viva tag in there as well. So I'll use those, and I'll go through and add that. Okay, but this question was actually asked here in the on-premises forum, which is kind of a bit strange. They're perhaps not going to get their question answered. It's in the wrong forum. So what we can do as the moderator for that particular forum is move the topic. So if I click onto move topic, I could select SharePoint Online, or I could also select Teams if I wanted to as well. But there's nothing really that's an exact fit. So actually what I'm going to do is take this opportunity to go through and create a new forum group and a new forum for any questions that are related to this new technology called Viva. So we'll click onto the forum settings. As the team owner, I can do this, and I'll add a new forum group. So we're going to add a new forum group called Microsoft Viva. But if anybody's looked at Viva yet, you'll know that there's actually lots of different elements to Viva. So we'll click on to View Forums, and I'll add a new forum, and you'll find that there's a part of Viva called Topics. So we'll add a Topics discussions section, And in here, I could optionally create a moderator as well. So I'll do that. I'll make demo user 5 a moderator of this particular forum. And I'm going to also allow those posts to be posted without actually being approved by demo user 5 first. So that's an option that I have to set when I'm creating the forum. So that in the background here has created the forum group called Microsoft Viva, and I've also got topics as a forum, and we'll add a few more. So I'm going to add insights. So we'll have insights discussions and add that. And I'm also going to add connections. Okay, and the last one, learning. So now we have some forums where people can go through and ask questions related to Microsoft Viva. So what I can do actually with this one that we've already created, or this post, is say I want to move that topic. So as the moderator, if I know that their question is not really going to get answered here, I can go through and move that to one of the other forums. And under Microsoft Viva here is those 4 different sections. So I'm just going to choose, in fact, let's just choose insights. I'll say move topic, and that post will now get moved to that section, as you can see. All right, so there we go. And what we might also decide to do inside this team is go through and add a channel. And the channel that we create is going to be called Microsoft Viva. So we could have that for other reasons as well, so files and things like that to do with Viva. So I'll go through and add that. Okay, so we've got that, and I can add social squared. Which is now done. Okay, and you'll notice in here that all the forum groups display, but what I'm going to do is just mask the other ones out. So this is not a security thing, but what I'm going to do is just put Microsoft Viva as a forum group that I want to display here. So it becomes more contextual, so that when we're actually inside the Microsoft Viva channel, we'll see just the topics and the discussions related to Microsoft Viva. Okay, so so that's the kind of thing that we can do with that. So yeah, it becomes very useful inside of Teams, but you can also use that same thing inside of SharePoint as well. So across the different SharePoint pages, I could also have different forum groups display, depending on what page you happen to be on. Okay, so that's sort of creating posts and replying to posts and creating the new forums and whatnot. Other features that we've got in here. So if I see inside these different posts, there's actually a post here called SharePoint On-Premises Forum. If I just go and take a look at that, it's just giving some information about how this forum should be used. So this would be something that's really useful to keep at the top of the forum. So I'm going to choose the sticky option to keep that at the top. So you'll notice when I go back now and refresh maybe, so that we can see that particular post is always going to be at the very top of the on-premises forum. So people can read that. There it is with the little pin icon. So that's a sticky post, and we can have multiple sticky posts if we want. And then anything else that gets created will be beneath the sticky post. So you'll also notice in here that we can lock the post as well. So if I don't want people really replying to this one, it's just informative about how to use this forum. So therefore I'm going to lock it, and now nobody can reply. We've also got things like threaded views and things like this that we can turn on and turn off as well. So that becomes a toggle. Of course, you're not going to see that in here because there's no replies. There is also the subscription options. So we can subscribe at the discussion level as well as at the forum level. So the advantage of subscribing at the forum level is the fact that any new posts that get created inside that forum, I'll be notified about via email. But if I'm just really particularly interested in this discussion because I'm experiencing the same question and nobody's replied to it yet, I could go through and subscribe myself to that discussion. And when somebody does reply, I'm going to be notified. And by the way, here's the threaded view. So if we click onto that thread, it just shows that indentation between each reply. So it's obvious whether you're replying to the main topic or to a further reply. Okay, so that's some of the different options. And I also just want to show you that this one on Microsoft Viva, we should reply to that. So I'm going to just reply to myself, save switching screens and so on. And I'm going to do that by embedding a video, because there's a really useful video about what Microsoft Viva is by Microsoft. So in my reply, I can say, here is a video that will really help. Okay, and rather than just providing the link, we can actually embed YouTube videos or stream videos if you've got the embed code, or Wistia videos, whatever it might be. There's also Vimeo. I can just drop in here the YouTube link to that YouTube video, and there we go. We've got that all about Viva video embedded inside the post here. So I'll just reply with that one, and hopefully that will be useful to me when I ask that question. So that's sort of embedded videos, and you can also embed images and things like that if you want to as well, either just by copying and pasting them or by choosing the insert image link as well. Okay, so also down the left-hand side here, you'll see some different views. So one that we've already seen is the tag cloud view, so we can jump to each of these different tags. There is also a new user posts as well. So if I continually start to see good replies from a particular user, then one of the things I might want to do is see what else they've been writing. So we can go through and do a search on a particular user. So in here, I'm going to select demo user 9. So I'll choose that user and hit view. And here's a bunch of stuff that demo user 9 has been replying to or creating as different questions, and I can go through and view those topics. But what I can also do is click onto these users. So that was demo user 9, who I'm already following. If I do a search on demo user 5, I can select demo user 5's profile and decide to follow that user. So anything in the future that this particular user will be posting, I will also be alerted about, and we can go through and see what posts they've created as they create them. And you can check out the people that are following you, or the people that you are following, sorry, not in the active users view, but in the following and followers view. So there's the people that are I'm following, and nobody's following me. So I can also see the recent activity and active users. So there's some good views there. The recent activities is a great place to perhaps come in first thing in the morning when you log in, see what's new. It'll all be unread if it's something you haven't read yet, and you can go in and see if that's something you can respond to. Okay, there's also some settings in Social Squared as well. So some lovely pop-ups there. So some settings in here as well, which we can do. So setting things like refresh intervals, and you can also set up those notifications and things like that if you want to. Or badges and things like that can be switched on or switched off if you need to do that. So that's working with Social Squared here inside a team. And you could also go through and add Social Squared as a personal app as well. So this is really useful if you want something that's kind of like a wider audience than just a team. So if you wanted something that's perhaps going to span every user inside your organization, you could either create an organization team, of which you can create 5, or you could go through and add it as a personal app, and then anybody can get involved in here. It's not actually tied to a specific team, so you can sort of have high-level Q&As and things like that between different users. And switching across to SharePoint, if it's something that you wanted to use inside of SharePoint, then this is basically a web part. So you'll notice here, if I edit the page, so there's our web part. I'm just going to remove it and show you that I can add that again. So doing a search on Social Squared, you're going to see 2 different entries in here. There's this one here, which is actually discussion board migration. So if you're in the past used SharePoint discussion lists, part of SharePoint, you can use this tool to migrate your content from that discussion list into Social Squared, or you can access Social Squared as well, and that will just drop that onto the page. And the formatting and so on, being a SharePoint framework tool, you'll notice in here that if we were to come in and change the look by applying different themes, so we've got things like purple and red and so on, that Social Squared picks up those accents as well as you go through and set that. So it's not a hard-coded color if you're not a fan of teal. And the content that is displayed is local to this particular site. So in the background is some SharePoint lists, and they are the repository for this content. And that means from a sort of permissioning standpoint, you're not having to go through and manage users or anything like that. It's all done through the actual SharePoint site. So you can add your users to the site. They then have access to the forums, and they can start to read them and contribute to them and so on. So there's no setup as far as that's concerned. It's all list driven. But that drives the question about, well, what if I want this same set of forums showing up somewhere else? So one of the things you can do is go into the properties of your Social Squared web part, and I do this through Teams, or you can also do it through SharePoint as well. And in here you can specify an alternate content source, which is basically the URL to a site. And if the SharePoint lists for Social Squared are found inside that particular site, they will then become the repository for these forums. So I could actually have this web part show up in multiple sites and multiple teams inside my organization, and not just have that content show up inside of the one. Okay, so that's kind of a quick tour of Social Squared. So we're just going to jump back to the slides, and I'll talk a little bit about the new features. So some of those we just saw, the Teams channel notifications, where you get the banner notification and writing out to the posts tab. These are actually new for Social Squared. So if you haven't seen that yet, that's why. So they were launched this month, as was the user posts view. So that's a brand new feature as well. Tags we did already have, but suggested tags is a new feature. So as you go through and type, you saw these suggested tags popping up. That's launched brand new this month. And there's also been some Teams mobile app improvements as well. So this is around the responsiveness of how Social Squared gets displayed on different mobile phones and so on. And we used to have a Social Squared mobile phone app specifically, which you can get from the iOS and Android stores. But actually, it makes more sense to use Social Squared inside of the Teams app or inside the SharePoint app. That way, you can jump through different teams and even different tenants and still make use of that product. There's moderation improvements and also search improvements too, which you'll be able to read all about these on our latest blog post. If you go to lightningtools.com and click onto the blog, you'll see all of that information. And we've also got quite a strong roadmap. So with regards to the roadmap this year, one of the things that we're currently working on is reports and analytics. So this is going to sort of show us how well different forums are performing. Are they getting engagement? Are users contributing towards the forums? Are questions going unanswered, and if so, for how long? That type of thing. And this is going to utilize our data viewer, so that you've got the charting displayed, or the grids of data with conditional formatting and that type of thing. So you can build your dashboard using the data viewer around the different types of reports that you want to use. Now, we also saw the sticky posts. So one of the things that we're working on, which you'll see later on this year as well, is the ability to not just make a post sticky, as you saw, but make it conditionally sticky. Like, we don't really want that post to be at the top of the forum forever and a day, because as we're onboarding people, they've already got the gist of the fact that this is a SharePoint on-premises forum. So we could maybe have it displayed for a period of time, or until it's got so many views, or until it's answered, something along those lines. So you can go through and configure your rules for what would make a post conditionally sticky. There's going to be managed metadata support as well. This is something we already have in the WSP version of Social Squared for SharePoint on premises, but this is yet to be implemented for SharePoint Online. So as well as having the suggested tags, if you want to have unified sort of taxonomy and term store, then later on this year, you'll be able to use those unified terms from the managed metadata term store inside of Social Squared as well, in order to tag your posts. And we'll also be doing things like sharing to Yammer and sharing to the posts tab, which again you'll see as that's just getting more sort of audience involved in using Social Squared. And there'll be types of forums. So depending on the environment that you're in, if you're an educational organization, there'll be a type of forum that is more specific to education. And if it's a technical Q&A type forum, there'll be a type of forum that's more suited to that as well. And finally, one of the things that we're currently working on in other products like our Lightning Conductor content rollup tool and DeliverPoint permissions management is the people cards. So this is basically the people card that you get as you hover over a user. You see the people card pop up and you can send them a message or see what files they've been working on, that type of thing. You'll have that functionality through Social Squared as well. Okay, so that's what's coming. That's what's new, and hopefully, if you're brand new to Social Squared, then you've seen the reasons for using a discussion board inside of your organization and how that can show up inside of Teams and also SharePoint as well. So at that point, I'm going to open up for any questions. So if anybody does have any questions, you can feel free to use the chat window to ask them. Yeah, there's a couple here. So question for me, it says the copy paste drop down doesn't appear when copying and pasting into a forum, but it still works. Is there a fix to that? Okay, so not something I've seen. I've copied and pasted a lot. So let's just try it. So in here, I'm just gonna let's do just find a quick image. Just bear with me. So maybe this is something I've just not noticed before. Okay, just bear with me 1 second and we'll get there. Okay, so if we go into our team again. Okay, so I'll add a new topic. So right click, I'm not sure what it's meant, but I do have the right click to paste here. And also the copy as I'm highlighting text. And if I grab an image, let me just try and copy an image from here. Yeah, so you can see I can copy paste an image, I can resize that image in my post and position it and that type of thing. So I think there's a bit more to that. So if I'm trying to copy and paste from a post, okay, so let's highlight some text. Yeah, so I'm getting the right click copy. If it's something that yeah, I'm missing the point on, feel free to send me an email on brett@lightningtools.com and we'll be able to get connected with tech support, or if it's something I can answer, I'll do that. Okay. And then another question is, can you validate if this is a secure app? What is the end user support? All right, so yeah, from a secure app, one question that comes up quite a bit is about where does the content get stored? Is it processed outside of your tenant? That type of thing. So absolutely not. This is all SharePoint lists that are inside of your site, and therefore they're protected by your tenant and your permissions and security that you've got established. So if you're using multi-factor authentication and things like that, Social Squared is going to benefit from all of that stuff. It is basically a web part displaying content from a SharePoint list. So you've got every piece of security that Microsoft 365 has to offer around that content, and that content is inside your site in your tenant, not inside of our tenant. So yeah, from that point of view, completely secure. And end user support, from the support perspective, yeah, if you check out on our website, you can go to lightningtools.com. We'll bring that up just here. And on the pricing page, depending on what sort of category you fall into, you'll find all the details of what support we offer. So I'm just going to bring up the Social Squared pricing page just here. And in here is sort of everything that's included. So the support includes client onboarding, first of all, to make sure that all of your end users are satisfied with how the product works and that type of thing. And there's also email, telephone, remote desktop support that we offer too. And you'll find that, if you want to raise a ticket, you can do all of this stuff from the customers area. So this is where you can submit a ticket. You can also go through and check out our videos as well. So there's different videos about doing all these different things within inside of Social Squared too. So, so clicking onto that, you'll find lots of different videos installing it, how to create posts, that type of thing would all be covered through there. Okay. And I think that's all the questions. So yeah, at that point, gonna just bring back up the PowerPoint slide again. So if you do have any questions, you can reach out to me on brett@lightningtools.com. So with regards to the copy paste, if you're still experiencing that, reach out to me and we'll see if we can help you. And if there's any questions on anything else, again, please feel free to email me or get in touch with our sales as well, which is sales@lightningtools.com. All right. If you are interested in next month's webinar, next month we're going to be launching a new version of the Lightning Conductor, which is our content aggregation tool. With that, you can aggregate content from SharePoint lists and from Microsoft Graph and things like that. We've got some exciting new views to share with you around Planner, and some nice new modern things like pill formatting and things like that you're seeing in Microsoft Lists that's made its way through to the Lightning Conductor. So if you're interested in the Lightning Conductor and what that has to offer, then please sign up for next month's webinar. All right, so thank you very much everybody for attending, and we'll notify you when this recording is available to watch back. Thank you.